Hey, welcome back to the channel. So today I thought we'd talk about two different projects that we have going on and some workarounds on it that we have to present to the customer. And most of my customers want it done as cheaply as possible. But the first one, the first one is a John Deere GT 235. Customer complained that it wouldn't drive, that it just made a bunch of growling noises. So we dropped the transaxle out of it. And what we found was the pulley on top, as you can see here, it stripped the pulley. It's supposed to be splined. Now we have two choices on that. We could take and order a new one, which is around 90 bucks. I know the customers are going to kind of bulk at it. Or we can weld it. But then we found another thing going on as far as a cracked frame. One of the things you're going to have to learn to do is weld. So we're going to have to weld that, get that ground down, and I'll weld it up solid. And I'm going to talk to the customer today about what's going on with the pulley and what they want to do. The other thing that we're looking at is a log splitter. We end up taking and disengaging, yeah, he's using two-stroke chainsaw gas in his wood splitter. So we put the new fuel pump in it, disengage, and it's hard to see. We disengaged the electric, so that's no longer being used. We went back to the manual, and that should start right up for us today. So what would you have done if you saw both of these machines as a repair shop? And what I say in most of my videos is if it's going to cost any amount of money, I run it by my customer. You know, he didn't want to spend a lot of money on that John Deere. So he's going to make the decision, not me. If it were mine, I put a new pulley on it. But on a lot of older machines that we've had come in like that, we have taken and just welded it. It's a one-time deal. Welded it to the shaft, and then when it goes, it goes. So give me your thoughts on that. All right. Thanks for watching. All right. So I talked with a customer on the John Deere rider, and we both decided to go ahead with getting a brand new pulley. It was $89 plus tax. So we went ahead and I went down and I got it through John Deere. And some of the parts you're going to find that for the John Deere, sometimes you'll find an aftermarket, but most often the case is you're going to have to go with OEM. And they're one of the few companies that have not let their parts out where they can be copied, at least the technology and stuff. So we got the pulley, installed it. It took us, two of us working at it, about an hour, hour and a half to drop the transaxle, and then probably another hour and a half, 2 hours to get it all back into place, and then another 20 minutes to weld the frame. And after we welded the frame, we take just black Rust-Oleum spray paint from Walmart, wherever you want to get it, and we cover the weld so that you don't get any rusting going on. So I called the customer, and let me take a step back. This machine had come in for almost a similar reason 2 weeks ago. And my mechanic thought it was just simply that the nut on top was loose, so he tightened everything down hoping that that would take care of it. And he had to drop the transaxle part way to get at it. with the impact. Okay, go ahead a week and a half and the customer brings it back and is upset that it didn't work. And we went around a little bit out in the yard here. He's been a good customer. Told him, I said, look, leave it. Let me, even if I have to tear it apart myself, I will try to keep the labor bill as low as I can. And so we left it at that. So we got it all back together. The pulley was around just under $100 for tax and everything. And it took us, a little bit of time to get it back into place, get it welded up, get it painted up, and making it go forward and backwards. So I called the customer and told him that his machine was ready to be picked up. So he shows up with a check in his hand. I said, what do I owe you? And I said, well, I told you I'd try to keep it as low as possible. But here's what the pulley cost. I showed him the actual invoice of where I paid for the pulley. And I said, it took us probably close to 5.5, 6 total hours to do what we had to do to it. But I'm just going to cut it off at $100. And he was not happy because he had paid a little over $200 a week and a half, 2 weeks prior for something that was similar. That I think it was the issue then, and it just hadn't stripped completely. And with the nut loosening up, it allowed it to do a lot of movement. But I showed him the bill, and he hemmed and hawed, and I said, look. He said, well, my understanding was I only had to pay for the parts, and you were going to cover the labor. I said, okay. He said, write me a check. And what would you guys do with business owners? I told him, go ahead, write me a check for the part with sales tax and everything on it. And we'll call it a day. He still wasn't happy. Kept going back to the bill. And I said, look, I already told you, write me a check for the part. There's the invoice from the John Deere dealership. Covered that. And you're too good a customer to have a fight over this. I said, it took us almost 5.5 to 6 hours with 2 of us working on it to do it. So he wrote the check out for the part. And when I get him out there to have him try it out, make sure everything is, I showed him where we welded the frame. Well, then he got off the lawnmower, come back into the shop, looked at the old bill that had $100 labor on it, and he's starting to write things down on it. I said, what are you doing? Well, I forgot that you guys had to weld the frame. I said, I didn't. And I didn't when I told you just give me the money for the parts. I said, well, that's not fair. I said, well, what can I tell you? So we finally got his machine loaded, and he settled down, and hopefully he will look at us for any future work. But I'd like to know how you guys in your shops would have handled this. I mean, you have to somewhat guarantee your work. And do you think I did the right thing by the customer, even though it cost us, the shop, money? We didn't make anything on that. and I still had to pay my mechanic those hours to work on it. And I went out and I helped him with that to keep the hours down. Had it been just a one-man job, which is not, it would have been more hours that I would have had to shell out for. The thing is we have to do this sometimes as shop owners. You got to make the customer happy. And if you have an employee working on something that you just ate, that employee is happy because they're still getting paid. Your customer's happy because they aren't paying. And you as a shop owner are left trying to figure out, did I make the right call? And personally, I think I did down the road. But that's what we have to do as shop owners a lot of times, is make the judgment call that it's costing us that money. Not costing the customer, not costing our employees, it's costing us, the business. Alright, so on that note, let me know what you guys would do. And we did get the wood splitter all back together and it runs great. Still waiting on the guy to show up. Tire went flat, so now we gotta fix a tire on it for him. Or be here to blow it up so he can get it home. And we're going to show you some of the new stuff coming in. Now, this is my dually. And we just brought this tractor. It's a 584 International with clutch issues. That supposedly it worked until they tried adjusting the clutch pedal. So that's coming in this week. We still have the Polaris out there. But we're going to try to adjust the clutch. There's a plate on the bottom of the tractor where you can reach up in and adjust. Because it's a two-stage clutch. It's for your PTO and your forward and backward. So we're going to try that before we split the tractor. This is the front view of the shop. I'm going to get that out of here this week. Excuse me. We finished that up for a good friend of ours. The Husqvarna we got in and got out. Wasn't running. Need a solenoid, switch, and we had to drain the gas. It was bad gas in it. I know,